Today's Tanya, Alter Rebbe continues on the theme of Tanya, which is, first of all, each and every one of us has two souls. One soul is a divine, altruistic, positive force. The other soul is a selfish force. It's about what makes me happy. So in one soul is the love of God, and the other soul is the love of self. Now, these two souls have an argument. The godly soul wants us to be filled with the love of God. That's its love. And the animal soul wants us to be filled with whatever will basically increase our ego and decrease our pain and shame. Within us, of course, is also a third soul, an intellectual soul that is kind of an arbiter between the two. It sees things and wants things simply to make sense, and is able to look for the truth in life, which is what makes humans not animals. But in any event, these two souls have a constant battle, and there are 5 levels. There's the complete tzaddik, the incomplete tzaddik, the completely wicked, the incompletely wicked, and, or better said, the wicked that has good in him, and the wicked that the good in him isn't apparent. And then there's the in-between level. So now we're talking about the complete tzaddik and the incomplete tzaddik. So the complete tzaddik is one whose love for God is so strong that it converts the animal soul, because ultimately the animal soul is seeking pleasure. It's not necessarily bad. It converts it into a godly soul. So his whole being is one in which everything is about God, like King David, which King David, his whole being was just a godly, wonderful person. On the flip side, you have a person, let's say, who the animal gets so much in control of them that they lose their conscience. We call it a psychopath, that they just think about themselves and they don't even care about anyone else. Then last but not least, you have this incomplete tzaddik. So there are many thousands of these incomplete tzaddiks, somebody that definitely their primary desire is God and goodness. However, you can't say that they are complete. And the reason for this is because complete love for something would denote complete hatred to its opposite. So, for example, I love people. Now, if somebody, hurt someone else, it would make me upset. But let's say somebody hurt my own child. That would make me angry. Why? Because my love for my child is so strong that anything that would go against my child would show that's basically anger and love are opposites. So if my love for people were as strong as my love for my child, then I would probably get angry at them too. So the point is that to the extent that you love something is the extent that you hate that which opposes it. Which in the context of the times that we're in now is very important to understand. We have crazy people that are protesting for killers and murderers and people that behead babies. So the fact that they can do this shows that they actually like evil. One of the big mistakes that people make in life is, especially Western people that have goodness in them and compassion, is they don't understand evil, and watching movies of evil. No, evil is sadistic. As Schindler, who helped many Jews, he said it was pure sadism. What Hitler unleashed and what Hitler was a sadist. A person doesn't go to the fridge and get something without being hungry, without being bored. There's always a reason to an action. So if Hitler, nobody was forcing him to go out and kill people, and he chose to do this. And he chose to do this because the only pleasure he, in his sick self, received in life was from hurting people. The only time he was happy was when he would imagine bombs falling on London. Everything he didn't do for anyone, including himself or Germans. He did it against, because his pleasure was sadistic. The same thing is with the Arabs. They don't care about Israel. They never did care about Israel. They just care about hurting people, particularly Jewish people. That's what they are, the sadistic people. Not all of them, of course, but many and enough of them. The fact that all the Arabs can support terrorism shows that this is a very, very sick group of people. And people that are supporting them basically have been brainwashed. Recently, there have been Jewish kids who unfortunately were part of that team. And, this one Jewish girl, she came to the protest in Washington And at the protest in Washington, she said, I was freed from being a hostage. Her boyfriend was quote unquote Palestinian, which is just a fancy name for an Arab terrorist. And, when she said, look, they killed people. And he's like, well, yeah, but they're Jews. She said, well, I'm Jewish. Would you care if they kill me? He says, don't you realize I'm just using you the moment I don't need you? And the same thing is that the West doesn't understand, that these people are just using us. They're using the universities. They're just using people. It's just like the Nazis. Maybe they used Jews in different positions and they killed them all. There was one Jew, I don't know. Fortunately, some Jews did work for them. You can't blame them. Maybe they thought they would get saved, and the Nazi thanked Mr. whatever very much, and then shot him in the head. They have no love in their hearts for themselves. How much more so do they not have love for anyone else? And so what motivates them is actually pure hatred, and that's pure evil. So pure goodness is the opposite. We're motivated by a positive force, by positive love, and evil is motivated by negative. Basically, if you want to call it love, but it's a negative love. It's a love of hurting, a love of destruction, coming from narcissistic ego and anybody else. It's like mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest one of them all? Everyone else seems to be a challenge to my existence and my greatness. And so in conclusion, we need to be the perfect tzaddik. The Rebbe says today, even though generally we say that you can't be a tzaddik, we have to be that tzaddik, because the contrast between good and evil, what you can stand for, standing for Israel, standing for goodness. As Einstein said, the Germans weren't against the Jews, that Jews come from a race, because Jews come from all races. Rather, they were against the compassion, the social justice that's in the heart of all Jews. So we stand with the Jewish people, we stand with Israelis, we stand with goodness, we stand with the West that stands for goodness, and we are vehemently opposed to the evil Hamas, the evil terrorists. All the quote-unquote Palestinians, 98% of them support Hamas. They are basically Arab terrorists. That's what they are. And those that support them are supporting Nazis, just not Nazis from Germany, Nazis from Arab countries. I hope this message goes to many people, because today you have to choose. Are you a Jew or are you a Nazi? Are you compassionate or are you sadistic? Are you good or are you evil? That's the choice. There are no other options.